Today was supposed to be a big day in Wilmington, Delaware, where Dominion's $1.6 billion defamation trial against Fox was supposed to get underway. But Judge Eric Davis announced it was being pushed to tomorrow. He did not provide any reason for the delay, only saying the move was not unusual in such a case. There have been reports that a last-ditch effort to reach a settlement could be the cause. But at this moment, what we know is that the trial should begin tomorrow morning. There was plenty of other drama to fill the void today, thanks to Donald Trump's lackeys on Capitol Hill, who dragged the House Judiciary Committee on a field trip to New York City, not to go to Times Square or to catch a Broadway show, but to star, rather, in their own theatrical performance. It was in the form of a field hearing targeting Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, the man who is leading the criminal indictment of Donald Trump, accusing Bragg of being soft on crime. It is just the latest stunt by Republicans in their efforts to try to discredit Bragg's criminal case against their dear leader.
Here in Manhattan, the scales of justice are weighed down by politics. For the district attorney, justice isn't blind. It's about looking for opportunities to advance a political agenda, a radical political agenda.
He said that here in Manhattan, the scales of justice are being weighed down by politics, and they are, but only today. In America, being rich, being powerful, even being president of the United States does not entitle you to violate the law with impunity.
Joining me now are two Democrats who attended today's field hearing, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas and Congressman Dan Goldman of New York. Representative Goldman, this is your city, so I'm going to go ahead and start with you first. What was the what do you think was gotten out of this hearing today?
Very little, because it wasn't a serious conversation about anything that Congress can deal with. It was about a local prosecutor dealing with state law. Congress, of course, deals with federal law. But the clear intention was to create a political stunt to undermine District Attorney Bragg. And they're doing this at the direction and coordination with Donald Trump. They know that is not a basis to have a congressional investigation. It is a gross abuse of power to use the authority of Congress in support of a private citizen's criminal defense. So they're now trying to dress up this investigation as some investigation coincidentally about the Manhattan District Attorney's soft on crime policies, the same person who charged Donald Trump. We got nowhere in large part because we were not talking about the #1 problem with public safety in our country, and that's gun violence. And unfortunately, Republicans are unwilling to engage in meaningful policy discussions about gun safety legislation, and instead want to attack prosecutors with anti-Semitic tropes and false accusations.
Let me read you what the Manhattan DA's office said today. They said for outside politicians to now appear in New York City on the taxpayer dime for a political stunt is a slap in the face to the dedicated NYPD officers, prosecutors, and other public servants who work tirelessly every day with facts and data to keep your home safe. Congresswoman Jackson Lee, Mike Johnson explained in his own words why he felt this hearing was needed. I'm going to let you all listen to that. Oh, so I'm just going to read it then. Representative Mike Johnson said that part of the reason Republicans wanted to hold the hearing in Manhattan is that their constituents were seeing reports of New York City crime on the news and asking them about it. How many of your constituents have asked you about New York City crime?
Well, you know, Joy, thank you for having me. The sad part about this is that the victims become the victims again. My heart goes out to all of the victims who came with the sense that they were going to get help, some kind of relief. And in actuality, the champions of victims' rights and victim funding are really Democrats. My committee, the Subcommittee on Crime, has been a great proponent of the Victims of Crime Act, modifying it and ensuring it was funded and adding more dollars to it. I provided victims assistance dollars to law enforcement, as has other members of the judiciary. So the actual reasoning that Congressman Johnson gave was not only nonsensical, one could ask what veracity it had. Because what we see in America is, one, If they're victims, they want not to be victims. They want us to prevent crime. They want intervention. What we see in America is the head shaking and the tears and the outrage over Nashville, over Louisville, over Alabama, over Uvalde, over Mother Emanuel. This is a pain that I see in my constituents day after day after day, the mounting mass shootings that have occurred, and more mass shootings than days in this year because of guns, because of assault weapons, and we cannot seem to get any hearing on the question of that. And the other part of this was the absolute unethical and inappropriate attack on a sitting office holder, so much so that District Attorney Bragg and his members of his staff have to get armed security. Thank goodness for NYPD, Mayor Adams, who are fighting to do what is right, but white powder, being called an animal by the former president, and racial epithets coming toward them. I believe that our job is to do what we can do. We can help victims. We can stop the scourge and the siege of gun violence by the number of guns on the street. We can add more ATF officers to stop gun trafficking, stop ghost guns, store our guns away. I've got a bill, Emily Vaughn bill. So I think what I saw today was a sad example of using people's pain, using their pain to be able to make a mockery of justice. Each one of those witnesses that I could get to, I went and shook their hands to tell them I love them, I feel for them, and we're going back to Washington to fight for victims, to fight for dollars to intervene in gun violence, and to ask Speaker McCarthy to put the assault weapons ban on the floor of the House for up or down vote. Can America ask us to do that? Can I hear the noise and support to put the assault weapons ban on the floor of the House and get a yes or no vote?
Congressman Goldman, I will note that Columbus, Ohio has a crime rate, a homicide rate, that is 3 times that of New York City. Columbus, Ohio. That is a place that is represented by Jim Jordan. Has that come up in any of your hearings?
Absolutely, and let me be very clear.
Sorry.
Oh.
No.
Well, absolutely, and let me be very clear. Not only did that come up, but burglary, grand larceny, theft, all of those numbers are down, and the numbers of the cities like Bakersville, where the where the Speaker of the House has come from, has a high murder rate. And of course, cities in Ohio, a number of them have high rates, as in Indiana, as in a number of red states, have higher rates of crime, including murder, than New York City. By the way, he is a district attorney for Manhattan.
Right.
Let's be very clear.
Yeah.
There are many other boroughs that make up New York City.